Alright everyone, welcome back to Revamp. Got something different for you this time around. I'm just at home, got my slot car collection here. Obsession, maybe, who knows. I thought, while I was maintaining the track, I thought, you know what, why not show you guys something a little bit different. I'll show you the maintenance of the track I had to do, and then we might run through some of the cars. They kind of have different uses really and different track purposes. So let's have a look at that footage and then we'll be back in a minute and we'll have a look through these cars. Alright, just a little explanation of what I've got to do here. This is Carrera Track. They're made in Europe, I believe, Germany or something. And these little connectors for the track here, they get a bit of tarnish on them, a bit of dirt and stuff. So I clean most of them up. Some of them are okay, some of them are worse than others. And clean them up. Just make sure the terminals are, like the little ends are spread properly. They're a bit hard to see there on the end. Just spread them out a little bit, put a little dielectric grease on them and clip it all back together. So that's what I've got to do. It's going to take me a while, so I won't bore you with it. I'll get on and do that and then we'll come back and put the track back together. Alright, so you saw the maintenance I had to do the track. I've even changed the configuration a little bit since then. So what I thought, you know what, there's a lot of different types of cars here and, you know, maybe not everybody's seen them before or really knows what's under the bodies. So I thought I'll just quickly run through a couple of the different styles and yeah, just sort of let you know what they're sort of used for. So starting out, the basis that you have to really know is that there's two different scales predominantly. There are some smaller scales, 143 scale and, or you have to test me, it might be 160 something. Yeah, look, there's a lot of them around. The predominant scale these days is a 132 scale, which these cars here at the front are. Some of these cars here are 132. Then you've got your 124. This is your basic 124 scale size. And this one here, you know, these are obviously not model correct sizing on some of these. So, like, I mean, that's a Volvo truck and that's a Holden Commodore. A little bit out on scaling, but, you know, they're made for a chassis size and really that's the main thing. You do get some oddball stuff, which I'll show you a bit later. But yeah, they're the main two scales for the majority of stuff like commercial stuff and that kind of thing. So like your scale electric and those kind of things, they are 132, and same with a lot of your Carrera stuff and Oh, there's heaps of other ones. Like, you know, there's so many brands. It's not funny. But one major brand is Palmer. That's one in the box. And that's most of these are here at the front. And these are called what's called a Wampa, a Womp Womp, a Womp, various different names for them. They can be made of steel or brass or maybe aluminium, I'm not sure. But they're a basic steel construction. And here I've got one with the body can come off. They're a basic inline engine and ring and pinion setup like that. Really basic, near indestructible, these things. You know, we've actually got ones that we had as kids, and that's many years ago now, and they actually still run. Yeah, upgradable with engines, gears, all sorts of stuff like that. There are versions of that. This is a different version again. That's a complete unit bought as is. But basically the same design. You do have some variations on the design. This is a bit of an unusual one. It's the same essential chassis design, but it's got a flex in it and actually uses an angled engine on it. So that's quite an unusual one. Don't see a lot of them around. I'm not aware of who makes them in particular, but it's quite good anyway. Another variation that you get is these little sprint car style ones. You can see one here, has all the wings and everything on it. And then you get the more basic ones without the wings and stuff. And you can see similar chassis design, just a little bit narrower. From there, in the 132 scale, I suppose you've got some of the vintage stuff, like some of the Cox chassis and various other ones, you know, ranging from made of cast alloys to magnesium to all sorts of things. I've got, that's a vintage one there. Some of these don't particularly get used. This one's the Mellow Yellow Car, and it's not something that I really use. These are the most ones I use. Now, a version that is not commonly used at home is this. It's called a Palmer International 32. It is a Flexi chassis, so the body can flex independent of the actual driveline part of it. I believe a lot of these International 32 type things were developed for a 132 scale world championship at some stage. I will stand corrected on that, but that's what that car runs, and this little Mazda here runs the same thing. It's got that nice little Flexi chassis, and they're quite a good chassis, those. So that's the 132s. Track wise, you clip together home circuits, like the one you saw me putting together before. Now that track can run 132 and 124 on it. 132 is more realistic on it. The 124 cars are really designed for the large routed wood tracks. So the guide slot is basically routed into a piece of wood, and that's shaped into a track. Various Flexi style chassis, that's one there. That one's actually a Palmer Flexi 2. That's another Flexi 2, little bit different. It's actually a little different length in wheelbase. You also have kits like this one, also a Flexi, but made of wire and brass. Now you can buy these kits and put them together at home. Again, this is a 124 car, more suited to the large commercial routed tracks as well. I can use these on the Carrera Track, but they're not quite the same. Like the track's kind of too small for them, really. Here we have another homemade one. This is actually one that was put together by myself a long time ago. It just has no retires on it at the moment. And I put this together when I was a kid. You know, I can't even remember how old I was when I put it together. But yeah, that was based on an old piece together kit, like home DIY kit as well. And that's the same, made of brass plates and wire, all soldered together. They run the angle engine on them. So yeah, that's once you get up to a lot of the 124 cars, they tend to run that design mostly. You can see here we have another car by Palmer. This is a 124 scale car. And you'll see it's very similar to a Womp, but much bigger. So that's kind of like that car, designed for the large commercial tracks. From the homemade Flexi chassis, like this one, and the commercial Flexi chassis, such as this one, you move to, in more professional ranks, probably the pinnacle of slot cars, and by no means it is the one I've built the fastest or anything like that, because they are ridiculous. Is the wing cars. Now, these are a very basic wedge-shaped body on these, very aerodynamically slippery. But what you'll notice is they run these big plastic side wings, and they run a tail wing as well. Now, that's because the chassis are built very lightweight and sparse. Now, this is an older design. It's made all out of piano wire and soldered together with a brass plate over the nose guide, just for a little weight where the electrical contacts are. Very simple design in the back, you know, really just little weight as possible, maximum functionality, and then maximum speed, and then you let the wings do their aerodynamic thing. So they're designed to catch air in here against the tail here, and also around corners. They'll work a little bit like that sprint car wing that we saw just before, and they will also give some side aerodynamics as well. So if you want to see how fast these actually go, do yourself a favor. I'll probably put a link in the description of Slot Car World Championships, and I believe this one was in Helsinki quite a few years ago, and it has these cars, and also give you an idea of what it's like at a professional world championship event and how fast these cars go. If you've never seen them, I highly recommend giving a watch, and because I have no idea what the scale speed is, but they are ridiculously fast. They're actually hard to watch and track the cars going around the track. They're that fast. So I'll leave that link in the description. So they're the cars that generally you can use, from your off-the-shelf Flexi chassis to homemade brass Flexi chassis to your wing cars, and then to your smaller 132 Womp cars and that kind of thing. Now, some of these I don't really use for like any sort of racing or even use them on a track really at all. A lot of them are interesting body shells or vintage chassis, or they're just being made more like a model. So these ones here, they're a 132 scale. They come with the Carrera Track. They are the basic car that that particular track came with. Now, they're not a bad little model of a Corvette and a Cobra. And realistically, I've modified that track where A, it doesn't make a lot of sense to run these cars, and B, these cars run a magnet inside them to help them stick to the track, and personally makes it a little bit boring for me, and I don't really want to tear the cars apart and take the magnets out just so that they're more interesting. I've got plenty of other cars, as you can see. So they're the ones that come, the Carrera ones. We've got some other little 132 Renaults here. I've got them basically more for the model value than anything. And we've got a Lotus here as well, which is another vintage chassis. And yeah, I'll mainly have that for its vintage appeal and the body shell appeal. One car that's definitely built to a model standard is this 124 scale car. It's built by TTS, and it is basically the Abarth version of a 600 Fiat. You can even see the detail in the back with the engine, and realistically it's kind of too good of a model to really want to thrash around the track in case it gets damaged, and they are quite an expensive car as well. So one other car in particular which I could use on the track, but I mainly keep it for its historic value, is this one here. It's got a nice Ferrari shell on it, but the main thing is the chassis on it. Now this is a chassis called ISO, made by Cox, and it really was a, I hate to use the term game changer in slot cars, but it kind of is. Probably around the early 70s, 1970, around there is when they first came in, and potentially they weren't the first to have this by any means, but you can see the whole swing arm in there. And that swing arm's the entire electrical pickup, engine and rear wheels, and allows basically it to almost do wheelies while driving, to be honest, and not lose electrical pickup. Now that's transferred over into lots of cars since then, but these Cox ISO chassis really were a real pinnacle moment in slot cars. They would have come ordinarily on a Cucaracha car, and to know what that looks like, it's basically an oversized version of this purple one here. So a lot bigger, more like this size. And yeah, they were a real turning point in slot cars. So that's about it for your normal track slot cars. The other thing with slot cars is normal cars, people go drag racing. So why wouldn't they drag race slot cars? So just quickly, we've got a few here. This is like your normal, like, you know, pro stock style car, I'm imagining. This is a modified, this is actually a modified Flexi chassis like the other cars. We've got, of course, we have to have the funny car. This one is I believe it's a Mustang funny car. And you can see very elongated basic chassis. They're pretty much all motor and tyres. Still, obviously, the electrical pickup at the front. And so that's basically a funny, or it is a funny car, but a slot car funny car. Then, of course, if you've got a funny car, you have to have the altered. So we've got that, similar kind of thing. And then you, of course, have to have the dragster. This is an early vintage style with the enclosed nose. And again, very basic chassis. So that's some of the slot cars you can get. There are many other types you can get. All these ones with steel frames and brass frames and everything like that, they're the common ones you'll see at a large commercial track. Although the Carrera cars and scale electric cars are becoming more popular in a different style of commercial track where they use expanded home tracks, basically. So I want to pick out a couple of these, probably 132 cars, maybe a 124 car. Try and put them around the track, show you my little track in action. And yeah, then we'll wrap it up. Alright, got this little Womp style car that we were having a look at before. This one's a little pickup body. It's got a little modified engine in it. So I'll give it a go. So there you go, that's the little Womp style car. See, they can be quite quick. They can be even quicker than that one. You know, like I said, it's got a little modified engine, but it's by no means super fast. They can get a lot faster than that one. So we'll step it up to a 124 car. This is actually one that my dad put together. I just know that this one's been run the most recently. As you can see, they can be a whole lot quicker than the 132 cars. So there you go, that's a 124 car, Flexi type chassis. You can kind of see that it's borderline too big for this track. It's not really long enough, but you can definitely test them on this track. So next up, I'm just going to run this little unusual Flexi 132 scale car. I'm not sure about the origins of this one, but there's not a great deal of them around. They run a little angle mounted motor and got that little bit of flex in the body and the chassis. So there you go, that's not a bad little car, that one. Handles quite well. So that's a bit of a look into slot cars. If there's enough interest in the video, or if we get some comments on people wanting to see the larger commercial tracks, me and Dad will get together and we'll take some of these 124 cars and even some of the quicker 132 cars to a full-scale commercial wood-routed track. It's on the other side of Sydney. Unfortunately, there's not a lot of them around these days. But this gives you an idea of some other things that I do. Whether it's an obsession, I'll let you be the judge of that. I tell you, if you've got kids that are interested in cars, one of these tracks is, great for school holidays or whatever. Keep them interested, teaches them a bit about electric motors, even down to car handling and, throttle control even. Yeah, sure. It's a thumb controller, but, you get to learn that it doesn't need to be flat out all the time. And, you can still have fun with just a little hand controller like that and a little car like that and a little bit of space. So, if you enjoyed this video, give it a like. Leave me a comment if you're interested in it, and we'll try and get to one of those larger commercial tracks. But for now, subscribe to the channel so we can keep trying to bring you some other diverse content and also keep our projects going. So that's it for now, and I'll see you on another episode of Revamp.